Bringing awareness to imposter syndrome, like I mentioned, helps tackle it and helps really alleviate that imposter syndrome and decreases it. So a lot of reasons why it's important to talk about imposter syndrome is because it can show up in the workplace, it can show up in your personal life, it can show up in your relationships, in your family, any situation. And so noticing the characteristics, right? Having that self-doubt, it can show up in a way with self-doubt, really having this fear of uncertainty, really dealing with fear, overall anxiety even, and stress, right? So it's important to have, again, open conversations about it. It can also, in the workplace, lead to like decreased job performance. And again, people shying away from promotions and really leaning towards success in their field, right? And also, it can also increase burnout and decrease retention rate at the same time. It can lead to a lot of conflicts within family when recognizing that. Dealing with imposter syndrome is one thing, right? So having difficult conversations with your family maybe. And when you notice imposter syndrome come up in family, that can be more so when you're comparing maybe yourself, right? And so when you're seeing that show up, it can really play an impact in your relationships with your family. And another way that it can show up in specifically intimate relationships, maybe that you're self-sabotaging that relationship. You're
That's true.
neglecting maybe the things that are showing up, the good things that are showing up, because you're so focused on a relationship being perfect maybe, right? And this overarching viewpoint of perfection. And then another huge point of why it's important to talk about imposter syndrome is also because social media plays the biggest part in really bringing this imposter syndrome, and a lot of people bringing it up, right? And again, it goes into comparison. It goes into that idea of perfectionism, which again is not real, right? Nothing is perfect. And we can get as close as we want to what we think is perfect, but we'll never get there because there is no such thing as perfectionism. And social media has this crazy world of just showing a side that's so different, right? And they only they may only show a side that seems happy, seems successful, seems like an overnight success even. And so someone looking at that may not recognize the hard work, the blood and tears that went into that success, right? And so that may lead to imposter syndrome, really comparing themselves to that, comparing themselves to body images even, right? Recognizing or feeling like they're not a certain body image. So that can affect their own feelings of how they're showing up as well. And so many different factors, but those are some of the main areas that, it shows up in and why it's important to show up. And of course, there are many ways to identify if you're struggling with imposter syndrome, right? Like asking yourself certain questions, like do you maybe agonize over even the smallest like mistakes or flaws in your work, right? Are you attributing your success to outside factors such as luck, or are you attributing it to your own hard work? Are you maybe sensitive to even like constructive criticism, right? Feeling very, very closed off to that feedback process. And then when you do get that feedback, feeling like it's all about you rather than a collective effort to make a certain change take place, right? And maybe the biggest point is, do you feel like you will inevitably be found out as a phony? And it goes back to that point of feeling like a fraud when imposter syndrome comes up for you. Really feeling like you're gonna be found out. You're lying. You're gonna be found out. People are gonna find out the truth about you. Even if that's not the truth. One may not see it.